Have you said to your wife, stop being so sensitive, or what's wrong now? And maybe she said to you, you don't listen, you don't care about me. And often this woman may feel that she's highly sensitive. And what does highly sensitive mean? How do I connect with a highly sensitive woman? Maybe she's just learned this about herself. There's a designation HSP, highly sensitive person. And maybe she's found that and it's this new bastion of who she believes herself to be. The main points of while we're here, right? Why are we here on this man-to-man call? We're here because we want to move step by step through the three phases of this work. Number one, stop doing unattractive things. How do we know what those are, right? And how do we stop that? Phase two, grow your understanding, your ability to be a grounded, attractive, high-value man. How do we do that? What's that journey look like? That's what we talk about here and in coaching in our private groups. And phase three, ask for what you want in relationship. So this topic of her being highly sensitive, of you maybe having a knee jerk, what's wrong now? What is it now? You're so sensitive, and what to do about it. This is strongly in phase one and phase two of this work. And here in Man to Man, we want the freedom to live life with passion, freedom to live relationship with passion, and the freedom to make the most important promises to ourselves no matter what. So what does highly sensitive mean? As you might expect, highly sensitive just may mean she's more sensitive to certain physical or emotional or social situations than the average person, or than you. You may think she's highly sensitive. And what's the stoplight colors approach to conversation that can help overnight? This is what I taught in the previous call. This is what I taught in the live tribe call. And I'm happy to go into that if y'all want today. But I want to bounce over to highly sensitive. How do I help my woman feel more seen, more heard? And this, man to man, me to you, this starts to smack of, well, maybe I can do too much. I can try too hard. Maybe I'm trying too hard for this, or I'm kowtowing. She's actually ending up leading me more than I would like. And I saw this picture on Facebook. A shaman was asked, what is poison? Anything beyond what we need is poison. It can be power, laziness, food, ego, ambition, vanity, fear, anger, or whatever, certainly. And then, as soon as I read this, food, I had some pumpkin pie yesterday, or was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we had a family gathering and someone brought pumpkin pie. And I'm like, what are you doing to me? And they tried to pawn the whole pumpkin pie off on me. Like, no, I don't want the whole rest of the pie in my fridge. Please. Thank you very much. So pumpkin pie, too much of that can certainly be poison to me anyway. How does this smack to you guys? How does this come across to you? Is she highly sensitive? Have you said some of these things to her? What's wrong now? Stop being so sensitive. And maybe you're trying too hard. I mean, maybe that becomes a poison in our life. Unmute yourself. Come on in. How's this hitting you to start us off?
I mean, poison, like the picture is saying, it could be in many ways, right? It could be workaholics. It could be somebody that goes to the gym, right? That goes to the gym too much, 7 days a week. It could be somebody that is lazy, right? Like the opposite of going to the gym, right? You don't do anything. You become a couch potato. The more you do that, the more you want to do it. You know what I mean? Or don't do anything. So it seems like you get into this groove of like too much of something. So it's try to find the balance. That's what makes it the difficult part. Same as like diets, right? I don't diet and I don't exercise much, but throughout my life, I mean, I've never been heavy. You know what I mean? The max I ever weighed was 207, I think, right? So it's like anything, I guess. If you do it too much, it's too much. It's just trying to stay on the middle ground, I guess, happy middle or something.
Yeah, thanks for getting us started. So how does this remind you of maybe your work with your wife or your concerns about her? I'll use the word sensitivities, what she's wanting, what she's asking for. How do you balance that with her?
I think at the beginning, going back to the whole sensitive and all that, I remember back in the days. Let me put back in the days. We've been together since 1996, so you can do the calculator and do the math on there somewhere. I remember back in the day, she used to tell me things, like emotional thing, and I'd be like, come on. I mean, I can't tell you anything because all of a sudden you start crying, right? Stuff like that. Now that I remember about things in the past, that's me dismissing her emotions, right? Now that I think about it, I'm like, holy crap, all the stuff that I used to do. So it makes me think of a lot of stuff that I used to do in the days when we first started, I guess, and throughout our dating and being married. Now, I guess I'm trying to find this, obviously trying to fix all the harm that I did in a way, and trying to find the balance, right? Not to be like the picture was saying, not to come out as needy, right? But to come out as, I guess, more attentive to her needs, whether they're emotional, whether they're just being there and just being happy for whatever she wants to do, and be more of a supportive partner than and not be so disrespectful, I guess, in a way, because I think that's what it was pretty much when I was younger. It was just more didn't care. Not that I didn't care because I didn't know any better, I guess. But not being dismissal, I mean, that's all I can think right now of as far as that was.
Yeah, I hear you. And the dismissive, when I was a young man, I thought we were kind of all the same. We were both equal. I didn't know any better. So was sort of taught as a man to not do those things, cry about stuff, whine about stuff, complain. My dad wasn't going to have that. There wasn't like, if I wanted double the amount of chores, I could complain, basically.
Yeah.
So then when a woman, in my opinion, back then, when I was a young man, it looked like she was complaining, I handled that like I would have with my own self. Right? Oh, come on, stop that. Don't do that. Oh,
Stop whining.
Yeah, stop whining, this kind of thing. But she's a totally different, beast. Yeah, she's a totally different animal. So how do you reconcile that now? The judgments you had then, or feeling bad about how you handled it back then, shame or concerns?
Oh, it makes you realize, like now that I'm doing this work, and I mean, reading books and everything else, you start thinking about like how each person is their own, and start to respect their feelings and emotions and so on. That what they feel doesn't mean I have to feel it, but I have to, like, in a way, I need to like empathize with what they're going through. So like kind of put myself in their shoes and try to like imagine if that was happening to me, or something that could be somewhat similar that I have felt before, because me, as growing as a kid, I mean, my parents, they never taught me anything really when it comes to like emotions or this, if anything, they used to just beat me up, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And if it did what they didn't want me to do, I would get a beating. That was the lessons,
Right.
so I never really had any kind of like role models, so trying to make up a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that I learned, I guess, by seeing, trying to unlearn all that stuff and kind of like rebuild it pretty much from the ground up, and like I told my wife, I mean, I'm trying to do this work and it's hard. So I will still make mistakes here and there, but I'm becoming a little bit more aware of what I'm doing, so yeah, pretty much. It's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about it's hard, would you say? What's the hardest thing?
To recognize something before I actually do it, be more conscious of all habits, like dismissals, and especially my worst is like eye rolling, like do like facial expressions or stuff like that. Those are tough for me, and something they just come out, and after it comes out and then I notice it, then I'm like, oh crap, but I want to get to the point that it's like pretty much it's not even, doesn't even crosses my path, and that's what the work comes into, like practicing and practicing and practicing. It's kind of going to the gym, right? You can expect to be buffed from one day to the other, right? You have to build it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I just had a flash right before you said the gym. When I'm at the gym, there's the TVs, of course, all across the way. And I don't know why they have the food channel on at the gym, just to torture me, I guess. But the food channel, and I'll try to be nice, but maybe not so nice. Most of the people on the food channel are a little rotund, right? They're not, so they're just joyously eating there. And so practice for me is, let's say, not make judgment on people's lives. There's every channel of news that's on. There's probably 10, 12 TVs, and you can just scan across. I could judge the people that are in every one of these televisions without even having to hear them speak or the words that they might say. This one is they're renovating a house. Oh God, where in the country is it? Look at the size of that house. What do they want? Oh, how dumb are those fixtures that they chose? Like, it's very easy. Look at this news, that person,
Oh yeah.
like this kind of thing. So for me, that I've recognized that that's actually a practice. I won't watch the television often. It's more like headline scanning, but the awareness that I'm judging, and the awareness that if this person was right in front of me, would I still have that judgment in my mind or in my heart? And now that you mention it, to me, that's a really easy, simple daily practice, while I'm walking on the treadmill for 5 minutes to warm up or something like this.
It's just being aware of it, like when you're actually judging, and to be, oh, stop that, you are judging or you are being critical, if that's where you got to get to this point that, like, if you see it coming, then stop it, right? And then distract your mind to something else, whatever that is or might be, maybe just put the radio louder or something. But
sure, I agree with that totally. And I think you'll also agree, right, that as we go deeper into the work, it's what about me is judging the overweight person or that house or this tragedy that happened to it? Like, what about me am I really judging? It's not really about
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't matter what they're doing or how they look or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. Or wanting to have just an open heart, acceptance. I'm the same
Yeah. You
season.
know,
Yeah.
maybe they become your gym partner,
Right. Now,
you
hold on.
know?
I don't go too far there. So hold on. Maybe if they bring pumpkin pie. All right, thanks for getting us started. Appreciate it. So I'm doing this a little bit off the cuff. Our opening topic is how to connect with your highly sensitive wife. And I mentioned at the beginning, maybe she's saying things or has said things like, you don't listen or you don't care about me. And you're thinking, man, stop being so sensitive. Or maybe you've said out loud, what's wrong now? And I segued into that, into something to consider for our own, from that to consider our own selves. Like anything that is beyond what we need can be poisonous to us. Whether, one aspirin may save your life, but a whole bottle is going to do the opposite. So I've asked, what maybe are you overdoing in your life? Or do you have a question or do you have a scenario about your woman being highly sensitive? And maybe you're trying something that maybe feels like you're overdoing it with her or otherwise. So unmute yourself and come on in. Anyone.
All right, I'll jump in. Yeah, let me the other room. It I don't know necessarily if she's particularly sensitive, but I know that I picked up some bad habits from my father growing up, that there's a certain kind of harshness with which I can kind of comment on things or respond to things, and that's something I've been working on through this work, and I'm having the awareness now about, man, sometimes those responses can just seem really just unnecessarily, I don't know, harsh, I guess. I don't know. Not mean per se, but like not taking into account someone else's particular feelings, not creating any kind of sense of emotional safety. And I can see that now. I have so much more perspective on that. I guess the barometer of what is considered overly sensitive, that's subjective, isn't it? I mean, what seems overly sensitive to someone may not be for someone else. It depends on their culture. My now ex is Russian, so there's certain things that aren't sensitive to her that are sensitive to me, just coming from different cultures. So there's a lot of complexity to this issue and this question, I think.
Yeah, certainly. And thank you for calling that out. Do you feel you're overly sensitive in some way, or does she convince you of that in any way? What do you think?
She has definitely said that certain times that I've been overly sensitive about things, or like for instance, from her culture, there's very little sentimentality or nostalgia for things. They're very just kind of like cold and harsh, and that's what it is. Whereas I'm a little bit more nostalgic, and I am sentimental about certain things and certain moments. And so she just doesn't get it. So she'll call me sensitive on that stuff like that. But then, there'll be something else that comes up where I just don't get what the hell's the big deal. And she's the one that's like, how can you not see this? And there's just like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus vibe going on there. You just don't get certain ways that things are sensitive to each other. And I think it is a symptom of not knowing how to create that emotional safety, never being taught that, never even hearing of that until this work, and kind of now learning that from scratch and developing those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. So catch us up on you for a moment. How are you? What's your life look like right now?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot going on, man. We decided that this is going to be full blown. There's no reconciliation. We told the kids a few weeks ago, and that was a big moment, a bit kind of lead up to that. I had been trying to get her to get us to do that for a while, based on the fact that she's already started another serious relationship, and we told them, and it was not, the kids handled it okay. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they're processing in their own way, but we've been living in separate houses now for a year. So it's like basically we're doing this forever. And, they took it, they had some questions, and we're kind of, the questions are still coming up. I gotta say, I handled it okay. I was pretty calm, cool, collected. Whereas when we told them about the initial separation, I was a freaking basket case. So, in terms of handling myself, I think this work has been instrumental in that moment. I had to deal with some emotions later in the day, later that night, and I did, talk to some people about it. And then we decided when we took them to dinner that night, we decided that we were all going to go as a family to Legoland, and we did that last week, and that was a whole thing, man. I mean, it was literal roller coasters while going on an emotional roller coaster. The metaphors were thick on this one.
Yeah. Well, let me jump in and say Your energy now talking about this is incredibly grounded and calm and clear. Even a little bit of smile on your face talking about the emotional roller coasters of life. What's been key for you? What's been key for you in your work to help you come to this space?
Obviously talking to the men, bringing it to the men, having people to bounce things off of. I have other friends also that aren't particularly in this men's group, but other friends that I also bounce things off of, talking things through. I've been doing a lot of meditation, finding space for myself to just process things and not knee-jerk react off of things. Really getting my attention off of her. One thing that did happen at the Legoland experience, which I think is key for a lot of, just for, I don't know, people to understand. I've been trying to detach from her this whole time for over a year now. And this is the most time we've spent together since the split was at this Legoland experience. And just being with her this much, I finally was like, I saw it. I was like, yeah, I don't particularly like this person anymore. Not in a mean spirited way, just like, could we have like kind of like pulled this thing along and struggled and worked on it and really kind of, nose to the grindstone and made this thing work long term? Maybe we could have, maybe I could see it happening, with both of us were balls to the wall working at this thing. Maybe we could have made it work. There's still a connection there, but there's so much friction and so much just personality traits that don't mesh. And who wants to keep a relationship for the sake of the kids and just struggle through that? And then they're out of, then we got empty nest, and then you're all kind of like losing your shit and you're 60, that you don't want to play that out. So it was like I guess the final kind of like detachment happened on that trip where I was like, okay, and that's, I think, helped me kind of just really settle into this space where I'm at now. And I'm not really interested in dating yet. I am kind of really casually exploring it, but I'm really not. It's all about doing what's right for me, focusing on my career and the work, which was, something I had been missing before being the primary caretaker, and, being the best dad I can for my kids and being the best man I can, and just stepping into that, all the way, and no excuses, no bullshit,
Yeah, 100%, man. So what's next for you? What's the next edge for you?
The next edge for me is just to get my financial house in order and be fully independent of anyone and everything, and not, that constant. The work has been ramped up. I found, got back into my career, and stuff's starting to pick up really well right now. But my financial house is still not in good order. It's there, it's existing, and it's okay, but it's not super thriving. So for me, like, career and finances is a huge focus right now. As far as like dating and other women and letting someone else into my heart or even into my orbit at all would be another edge to explore. But honestly, man, I found a really cool place on a trip that I went to in May, where I was like, I found a cool place of authenticity with myself, and to enjoy myself with myself. And I don't need anyone else's. Yeah, I don't need anyone else to feel good about life. I feel great where I'm at. If I never touch, kiss, or have sex with another woman for the rest of my life, I'll be fine. I don't need that. I've been with a lot of women. I had a great, sowed my royal oats before I met my wife. I had a wonderful life. I had a great life. I don't need that. It's not about that. Life's not about seeking how many women you can conquer or whatever. If something happens, great. But if not, oh well. I'm going to be a fucking awesome dad and have a great, awesome, fulfilled life.
Nice, man. Yeah, I see a man who knows his values, knows what he wants now. Like, has started to make peace within your own self, and peace in a spiritual way, like the spiritual grounding. However you define the word spiritual, right? What's more than just this body or my temporary needs and wants? Yeah. And
totally.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wanted to pause on that, and then, like, that's a strong statement to never want to kiss or touch or want to, like, we get it.
I never said I don't want. I never said I don't want. Of course I want. I said I don't need. There's a difference, nice. A really big difference. I don't need it. Whereas when I was younger in my 20s, I'd go out and I'd be like, I want to make out with the most beautiful chick at this bar or whatever. You're on the hunt. You're kind of looking for it and you kind of need it. But I don't need it. Of course I want it. Who doesn't want that? Of course I can. I would love to wake up spooning some beautiful woman and have some morning sex. That'd be great. But I don't need it. Whereas I felt like I was in a place where I really needed that validation or whatever you want to call it. from someone prior to that. So yeah, that's where I'm at. It feels good. It's liberating, but it doesn't mean I don't have moments of weakness. There was a couple of moments
Sure.
on the Legoland trip. We're standing in line. I'm holding my son. He's sleeping on my or laying on my shoulder, and she's standing next to me. And I like, you know, if we were together, I would have leaned over and given her a nice kiss, either on the mouth or forehead. And I had that feeling. I like wanted to kiss her, you know, and I was like, oh my God, that's confusing. And you know, let that go, obviously. And then even today, we were looking at our daughter's school and meeting with the principal for some stuff, and a wind blew, and her scent kind of came to my nose, and I was like, I missed that scent, you know. I mean, that stuff happens, and it's tough, but got to move on, got to process it.
Yeah, yeah. She'll always have a place in your heart, right? That's been my experience, but the love will feel different. The appreciation will feel different. When I was with my son's mom, and it's been many years now, guys, going on a decade, we went to the
Yeah.
Renaissance Festival almost every year, right? Renaissance Festival, and we dress
Mhm.
up, take pictures, and our kiddo, so he was like real small, and all these different pirate outfits that he would wear, and like, oh, there's Merlin the magician. You know, we got all these pictures, and they just went this past weekend, and he showed me pictures. Now he's like way taller than her. You know,
Yeah.
he's a decade older, and she's still like wearing the same kind of costume outfit. She's still kind of got the same like smile on her face. And there really wasn't anything there for me other than just an acknowledgement that she's my son's mom. You know,
Mm.
it was more nostalgic about the Renaissance Festival than it was for her in particular at this moment. Like, I have more attachment to the Renaissance Festival memories than I do like needing her or needing her validation or the pain that's there. This
Yeah.
kind of thing. And that
Yeah.
that was 2 days ago when family was over here. Like, oh, looking at this picture, it's really nothing but other than the nostalgia of my son, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And there's other complexities going on. It's too long for this call, but like, you know, she's still shit talking around town. There's other stuff going on, and I get caught up in that sometimes. I'm still feeling bitter about some of that. And, you know, there's other complexities to this. It's not all like, rainbows and
Of
unicorns right
course.
now, but that's all stuff I'm still working on. And that's part of the process, not letting that stuff get to me and just stay on my path.
Good for you. Even you saying that actually validates more or encourages more what you were saying, because it's not like it's hunky dory. There's shit going on in town, and still, even with that, you have this mindset of, okay, I'm ready for the next thing for my own self.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks to see, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could call on guys, but I want you to come in. So how's this conversation hitting you? Maybe what are you overdoing it in life? Overdoing something maybe that was good in a small way, but really can become poisonous if you overdo it. Unmute yourself. Come on in.
I want to jump in. Yeah, because I mean, this topic is kind of near and dear. It's close to home because I feel like my woman is kind of by definition highly sensitive. I mean, if you look at, I looked at the definition of that, and it was like a person that has an increased or deeper central nervous system, aware of social cues and situations, and reading people, and really being affected, more than maybe the average person. So my woman is very much like that, and she's prone to things like anxiety and getting overwhelmed, and even to the point of getting like physically sick,
Yeah.
which actually has happened this week, because this week is last week of summer for the kids, school starting this week, and we're switching schools and moving houses, and it's all kind of a lot for her, and she's had this like kind of low grade cough for the past couple weeks, and that weighs a lot, because then I am supporting her and making her food, and she expects, I mean, not that she expects, but she needs that support, and that historically has been an issue in our relationship, and with pregnancy and childbirth, and her not feeling like I was supportive enough, and so there's like a wound there. So as soon as she starts to feel weak or unwell, there's a fear in her that, oh no, I'm not going to take care of her as she needs. But she's also very smart, amazing with words and communication. So it's like, she can really, with her words, kind of cut sometimes. And she's very good at expressing her needs and her wants. And so she comes off to me as like kind of needy. But it's so, I think for the question that you asked, what am I overdoing? There's this line that I keep trying to figure out of, am I overextending myself in serving her just to avoid her disapproval? Because if I were to kind of step back it would be, kind of a bad consequence. And so I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to almost like make myself just be present and support her and, do what she asked me to do and supporting her, making her food and bringing her this and that and taking care of the kids, laying them down, it's just, I'm doing all that. And I'm okay with it right now, but it's, there's a certain point where it's like, I just want some freedom and independence. And I want her to also kind of like step up and just be independent. But yeah, that's the struggle I have right now.
Yeah, let's unfold that for a minute. I do a lot of studying and research all the time because I love it and all this. And I was researching the causes and what can we do about psychosomatic illnesses. And psychosomatic are partially because of, in your mind, potentially trauma, potentially the way that your parents handled difficulty and things, and physical. There's actually physical responses, especially for a highly sensitive person. And there's a lot to this. A big piece of this is how much did their parent try to fix them with external sources? So if they feel bad, like they have a tummy ache or they're nervous, how much did their parent like shove a lollipop in their mouth or try to do something external or take them to the doctor every single time, that kind of a thing, versus did they just connect with them emotionally? Oh, thank you, sweetie, for telling me. I'm sorry that your tummy hurts. That must not be fun, and just being there for them for a larger percentage of the time. So rooted in those kind of things, it develops, and not to try to recreate what the psychiatrist was teaching me over the 1.5-hour lecture, but I can have some more compassion for a lot of this person's wired in a different way from childhood than I am. That's one thing I want to acknowledge. Let me ask you in particular. So you said some things that are interesting, right? So she's like wanting to rely on you, in fact, demanding, expecting you to do these things. I want to ask about that. And then also you would like for her to be independent because you want to feel more freedom, I believe I heard. So help me understand, on this end of the spectrum, she's not asking for much and you're just moving past your own like preconception that she should be more independent, let's say. And on the other end of the spectrum, she's a slave driving, demanding, sick person who's, berating you for not wiping her nose perfectly or something. I don't know where we are in the in the spectrum there. So help me understand from your point of view some of those pieces.
It's definitely not. I mean, it's more. If it was a scale from 1 to 10, I'd say Brown is 7, 8 ish is what I would put her at. Or the demanding, needy end of the spectrum.
So give me an example, please.
Yeah,
like
I mean, it's I'd say 80% of the time, maybe even more than that. When I enter the room where she's in, she's laying down right now downstairs in the bedroom. I walk in, 80+% of the time, she's gonna have a task for me and ask me to do something for her or take care of something. That's happening, or grab something for her. And I don't know. I mean, some of those things are things she absolutely she could do on her own, right? And I don't know where that comes from. I think there might be a part of her that wants to feel loved in this way of acts of service. And I think there's a history of me not being a very initiating that, displaying love in general to her, whether it's physical touch or was all the other love languages. So this is a way of her getting some kind of expression of love that she needs. She needs to, feel some love. So she's going to ask me to do something for her, even though it's not. She could do it herself, and it's not maybe necessary in that moment. But it's like, so that's one example. And it to me just feels like it gets old. It gets like, why is that every time I come in, I feel like you're going to ask me to do something for you?
Yeah.
It makes me kind of want to feel like I don't really want to be there, if I'm just going to be doing stuff for you, yeah.
That's a natural feeling. And especially if she's kind of nasty about it. Is she kind of nasty?
Not necessarily. But I feel like if I were to say no, there would be negative consequences.
Sure. She might get nasty then.
Right. And not nasty, but it's definitely going to be like, oh, she's going to feel like unloved. You don't love me,
Yeah. Well, so let me pause if I can. So let me ask in that example. Do you have a line for yourself? Not that you tell her, okay, this is my line, but for yourself. And that's motivated by your calendar being filled with things that are important, for instance.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a good line. I think that's where I'm trying to figure things out, because the thing is, like I said before, she's really good with like words and expressing and saying like it's
like what? So let's say it's time for you to go to the
oh
gym. You know,
mhm,
you go to the gym every day. Let's say it's important to you. And he's all right, baby. I'm going to leave for the gym in 30 minutes. Well, you know, what do you need? This. Okay.
mhm.
28 minutes later, I'll see you. I'll see you in a couple of hours. I'm going to the gym. Oh, can you do this thing for me? No, sweetheart, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah. So I think recently she's been good with that. So recently I started training, running for a half marathon. I started a training program for that. I've been doing it for the past couple of weeks. So it's like, there's a schedule. I'm doing runs every other day. And I'll tell her I'm going for a run and she won't push back then, right? But the last run I did, I was in the middle of the run, listening to this music and my coach in my ear. And I hear a text message come from her saying, oh, like the kids are, calling for you or whatever. But I didn't respond. I'm in the middle of my run.
Good.
And I got back home and took care of it. But so I feel like I think recently when I've expressed, that boundary or, saying, okay, this is what I want to do. Even coming to join this call was me stepping away from something we were spending time together watching the show that we've been watching together every day now. So it's like, I really want to join this call, I'll catch up, and that was fine. There wasn't much pushback. There was a little bit, but there wasn't, it wasn't nasty or negative. So I feel like there is a balance, but this is also coming from today. I took the whole day off work and we spent all day. We went to this nearby springs with the kids. It's like the last day, almost before school starts. So I really gave, her and the family that time. So I feel like me saying, hey, I want this, 1 hour I'm going to spend with, the men. I feel like it's fair. So there's a balance, right? But it's like there are moments where I feel like the balance is, is skewed.
Yeah, and if I may jump in there, the feeling that the balance is skewed doesn't necessarily mean that it is, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong, even if she's, saying that you are. And that's a piece of what you were saying earlier, and we were talking about all of us earlier around being aware of, well, where am I coming from? What's my value set? How do I see this? Yes, I take her feedback and opinions, of course, and feelings into consideration, but I don't use those as the sole driving force blueprint of who I am as a man, of course. And so let me ask you there, what's the next edge for you as far as freedom? You said freedom. Would you say that there?
I say being able to follow my passions or interests without the thought of, is this going to be received positively on her end or not? And I think I am definitely feeling that more. Yeah, so I think that's the next edge. Just to answer directly, because I am interested in certain things that are totally not on her radar, not on her, any interest level for her, and sometimes that kind of holds me back in feeling like, oh, I'm going to be wasting my time, spending all this time away from, the family or being together with her, and also money as well, investing in that, these hobbies which are kind of expensive. That's where my next edge is.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. And many of those considerations have to relate to her too, if they're about money, for instance. Yeah. Do you have a particular question before we run out of time tonight? Maybe something that you wanted to ask. That's why you came to the call.
Well, I mean, just the question of the day. How, like, what's
sure approaching
maybe how approaching
okay.
How to connect with a highly sensitive person. What's things to maybe words you can use, how to approach.
Okay, good.
Making them feel safety, and having them feel like you're there to connect with them and being present.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, good. Thank you. I'll press pause on you, and I'll show some of these, and I'll do some teaching in the last couple of minutes here. I'm happy to do that. I'll do it in a little bit different way than I have before. Fast. I'll just do it quickly, guys. I'm going to do another call. I may even teach a whole module on the subject of what does it take to build a healthy relationship with a woman at all. I was watching an interview with a divorce attorney earlier on today, and in the comment section was another divorce attorney, and he said that the two keys in relationship are openness and safety. And I'll add a third one, which is cultivating the art of love, the art of relationship, the dance of polarity, as we talk about here, right? Blooming her, being within freedom within yourself at the same time. I call that the art of love or the art of relationship. So safety, openness, and this dance that we're practicing and learning. And so I'm going to show you a part of that dance, and I call it the stoplight colors approach to conversation that can immediately help. This is around stop messing up, stop shooting yourself in the foot. And if you were at an intersection and you saw stoplights like this is one intersection with the pictures cut up to show the different, but pretend this is one intersection and you see all these lights at the same time, you'd be confused. You wouldn't know what to do. Right? Someone behind you who's been here before and knows what to do probably starts honking at you, giving you pressure, and you're not sure. Okay, oh my God, now anxiety's rising and judgment's starting to rise, and the person behind you is now yelling out their window at you. Imagine if that was your experience, or if that was your wife's experience, even more often than you can imagine, because that may be what she experiences in this sort of highly sensitive, unsure of what to do, unsure of how to speak up for herself, which way to go, to just freeze or to, get out of the way. She's not sure what to do. And so when you're talking with her, when you're engaging with her, you don't want to stack. So don't stack multiple energies in the same conversation. And what energies would those be? So don't stack. Okay, one energy is you're praising her with an open heart. You want that to sit in and of itself. If she rejects the praise, don't try to talk her into it. Just basically ignore her rejection of it. Now, we could talk more specifically, we could talk more nuancedly, but you're praising her. So let's say she's like, no, I really look fat in this dress. Don't try to then go into her pain. So the yellow light is her sharing pain or sharing hurt. When she's sharing pain or when she's sharing hurt, you just simply want to breathe and empathize. But if it started with praise, you don't want to go into something different. You don't want to then, oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Or, you're not trying to shift your energy to stack something else in the same conversation. And you're certainly not trying to stack in logic, like logically telling her or trying to explain to her why she looks good in that dress. So these are three different energies you don't want to stack in the same moment or in the same conversation. You want to stay away from that. So praising with an open heart, meaning high regard for her, like you believe what you're saying with your praise. If it's in a neutral moment, or if it's in a positive moment where you praise her about something she did 5 days ago, just out of the blue today. If she's sharing a hurt, you simply want to breathe and empathize, not trying to fix it. And you also don't want to say, hey, thank you so much for opening to me. You don't want to say that right now because she's still in the middle of pain. It'll feel like you're daft to her. And you definitely don't want to mix in logic with any kind of emotion or praise. You don't want to praise and then say, yeah, but let me explain something to you. And a woman often feels like all we have is the red light. So in this picture, there's just the lit up man red light, and the other lights aren't lit up. She doesn't feel like you empathize and breathe and just let her be in that pain or empathize with her. She doesn't feel much praise from you. Maybe all she feels is your logic. Maybe using logic way, way, way too often. And that's how she feels, like you don't listen, you don't care about me. So that's my quick teaching here of the stoplight approach is how often am I trying to use logic? And it's probably way too often. Or how often am I mixing logic in with some kind of emotion, like trying to empathize, but then telling her why she shouldn't feel that way, or everything's going to be okay because XYZ, or I'm going to make more money in the future, so don't worry. Trying to logically talk her way through an emotional situation is why she thinks you don't care, is why she thinks maybe you don't listen. Now, we can overdo these things, and that's why I brought up, trying to appease her too much can be poisonous for both of you. And if you feel that way, definitely reach out to me. We're out of time for this particular call. Reach out to me, post on the forum, email me, message me through Facebook Messenger. If you have questions about this, or you want to ask a specific question about, okay, yeah, but what about this situation, Jeff? Write to me. Love seeing you guys here.